President Trump touting the takedown of ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. My next guest in a new column saying the president deserves credit for ordering the operation. He also questions if former Vice President Joe Biden would have done the same. Marc Thiessen is a Fox News contributor, a fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, former speechwriter for President George W. Bush, and a friend. Most important title of all. I want you to listen to former Vice President Biden. He was on MSNBC earlier today.
The President of the United States precipitously withdraws troops from the same area where we need people on the ground. That the reports that I've read in the major press is that that made it much more difficult for the Delta Force to do their job. It got pulled off, I think, in spite of his actions.
Mark, you wrote about what Biden might have done if he were in the administration in this case. What do you think?
Well, first of all, President Trump does deserve credit for this operation. It was a very high-risk mission. They had to fly hundreds of miles into al-Qaeda-controlled territory in order to get Baghdadi. A million things could have gone wrong, and Trump would have taken the blame, but he did it anyway. But we should be asking ourselves, if Joe Biden were president, since he's running for president, what would he have done? Would he have ordered the same mission? And the answer is probably not. And the reason we know that is because he opposed the mission to kill Osama bin Laden. He was the only member of Barack Obama's national security team who said to the president, don't do it. He recalled in a speech that Obama turned to him in the sit room and said, Joe, what do you think? And he said, Mr. President, don't go. And the reason he gave, it's even worse, the reason he gave had nothing to do with national security or operational control. It had to do with politics. He said, if this goes wrong, you're going to lose you can say goodbye to a second term. So this guy who says he'd be a better commander-in-chief, at the moment that we had the mastermind of 9/11 in our sights, ready to kill him, he wouldn't go, and the reason was politics. That's the kind of leadership Joe Biden says. So for the guy who opposed the bin Laden operation to criticize the guy who authorized the Baghdadi operation, that's pretty rich.
And I wonder also if he had just congratulated the president and thanked him, it probably wouldn't have hurt his standing at all. I do also want you to listen to another 2020 Democratic contender. This is Kamala Harris last night on Seth Meyers.
That press conference was extraordinary. You would have think that he was talking about watching and giving commentary on a video game. At every step becomes clear that he clearly does not fully appreciate the importance of the job, which must be done with integrity, must be done in a way that is solemn.
And I know we're in campaign season, but I wonder about these kinds of attacks when they haven't sat in that seat. They haven't been commander-in-chief, where President Trump has been for 3 years and has kept the country safe.
It's awful because, I mean, this is a moment where we should be putting aside politics and celebrating the fact that the #1 wanted terrorist in the world is dead. That should be something that every American has been celebrating, and Donald Trump deserves credit for launching that mission. And you go back to what Biden said earlier. He said that he's precipitously withdrawing our troops from Syria. I agree with that criticism, but Joe Biden is the guy who advised Barack Obama to pull all our troops out of Iraq in 2011. He actually gave a speech where he said it was the proudest moment of his life to call those troops home. That's what led to the rise of ISIS.
And then they had 4 cabinet secretaries all say that they disagreed. Gates, Panetta, Clinton, and Kerry, all on that one.
And all our military commanders.
In the 2020 Democrats, in the debates that they've had so far, to the extent that there have been questions about foreign policy, they talk a little bit about immigration, a little bit about nuclear power. There was the Elizabeth Warren comment that comes to mind, and leaving the Middle East, not having troops there. But we really haven't had a big discussion about who would keep you safe. Do you think we might see that in November now as that debate comes up?
Well, I think Donald Trump has a strong case to make that he would keep us safe because he's doing things that the Democrats said they wouldn't. Look, the worst things about Trump's policy, like withdrawing all our boots on the ground from Syria and abandoning the Kurds, which are all bad things, are the exact same things the Democrats would do. There are no Democrats out there saying we should keep an enduring presence, a small but enduring presence in Syria and Iraq and Afghanistan. They all want to get out. So they have all they're doing is criticizing Trump's style and saying that his press conference was unpresidential. I mean, okay, what would you do differently? Are you willing to say that we should keep troops in Syria, not just to protect the oil, but to stay with the Kurds? Are you going to do that as president of the United States? They've got the worst parts of Trump's foreign policy, they're going to replicate.
Interesting.
And the best parts of Donald Trump's policy, they're not going to replicate.
Right. Marc Thiessen, it's a pleasure to have you. Everyone, check out his podcast. It's fantastic. I always listen, and the moment it comes out. Thank you.
Thank you. What the hell?
That's the name of this podcast, not about me. All right, the grandfather who was holding his toddler granddaughter up to a cruise ship window, you remember this? She fell, and now he is charged in her death. But will those charges stick? We're going to talk to a lawyer about that.